Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Brock Lawley program. My name is Brock Lawley. I'm your fearless host, and this is the segment where we tackle the news headlines, sifting out the leftist lies, like the chaff that it is from the golden wheat of truth. Serve it up to your ADD reality television show minds on a silver platter. You, my listeners, and the world at large are welcome. It is a service to humanity. At least that is this one man's opinion. Let's jump into the story, shall we? Vet apparently suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder actually gets right up to the White House door. Huge breach in White House security. Not to be surprised, as there seems to be nothing this administration can do with any degree of competence, including defend themselves. So you got this guy just running right up to the White House door. And according to his stepfather, he has access to a lot of weapons. So if he wanted to cause havoc, he certainly could have caused havoc. Even the Secret Service seems to be falling off of its nightly white horse under the incompetent boob rule of this administration. Just remarkable. Par for the course with this administration. If you can fumble, this administration finds a way to do it. Panetta, former Pentagon chief Panetta, big, huge lib, huge Democrat, capital D, quote, "We should have armed Syrian rebels. We should have stayed in Iraq." You don't get much bluer than Leon Panetta. And if he's saying this to 60 Minutes, you got to wonder what he really thinks. Anybody with any common sense, with even the shred of intellectual honesty, knows that this stinky pile of mess deserves squarely in the leftist lap. And Panetta breaking ranks from his drones, calling it as it is. You can't imagine that the White House is liking that. And the way they deal with dissent, it's a wonder this guy's going to be walking the earth for much longer. Maybe he'll be swimming with the fishes or find a horse head in his bed or something like that. Panetta, anyway, calling out the administration's incoherent Iraq policy and now bleeding throughout the Middle East. You know, here's the problem. The administration isn't in any way, shape, or form committed to anything that they're saying. This is a lick your finger, stick it up in the political wind, and March foreign policy. And it's just obvious. It's obvious to anybody paying attention. By the way, I did a great interview with Congressman Pat Tiberi, and he talked about the Ukrainian president giving a profound Reagan-esque speech about freedom and defending freedom. I'd love to get my hands on that speech. I haven't been able to listen to it yet. But you can see that the vacuum of American power is just far-reaching and painful, not just for people stateside, but throughout the globe. Rich fools de-investing in energy companies. This is hilarious. John D. Rockefeller, he basically made his money, he made his millions by bringing energy to the poor, to the lower class, to the middle class in the late 19th century, early 20th century, thus introducing a prosperity boom unmatched in world history. John D. Rockefeller would be ashamed of his offspring, his king. His heirs want to make sure that the poorest of Africa and Asia stay poor. This, of course, drives me crazy about the left. By the way, the story in the New York Times. These guys pat themselves on the back for being climate change clergymen. But really all they do is impoverish anybody who's poor right now and would like to have an electrical socket in their life. And why? Because they know better. And they worship at this created Buddha altar of climate change, which in and of itself is hilarious how often this thing is refuted. But they stay the course. There's a big gaggle of them out there protesting. I'm going to get to that story pretty soon. Conservatives look at Canada for inspiration. Not surprising. The Canadian Prime Minister, a conservative by all standards, at least modern-day standards, and Canada thriving economically, certainly moving into a moral leadership role in the world as we find, the American empty suit to be MIA from any such conversations, as well as the New Zealand's conservative government winning another election, their economy booming. New Zealand electing a conservative for the second term. This is Wall Street Journal reporting this. So you see conservatism winning and exemplifying why it's the way you should govern free people everywhere in the globe that it's tried. And it's, of course, proved itself here too. But the left were able to demagogue their way into power, and we're seeing the fruits of that on that rotten leftist tree, aren't we? 6 years into this train wreck. This is just hilarious. I got a string of Green Gone Wild stories. Too many trees is a big problem. You read these pieces and you understand why no one has any idea what they're talking about when they talk about controlling climate. Now the New York Times talking about too many trees are the problem, and global warming hysterics were on parade, literally on parade, by the way, in a march in New York City. A march for what? You should note the brilliant comments from the crowd if you are able to peruse any YouTube videos in this regard. The New York Times reporting this. You gotta love people like Leonardo DiCaprio, who park their planes and their boats just off the Hudson, and then they get out and walk the pavement in preachy-like protest of you and me and our carbon footprint. The level of hypocrisy is so profound that you certainly don't need me to highlight it. Ladies and gentlemen, here's the truth. No one knows much of anything about why the climate changes. That's just a fact. They just simply don't. That's why they embarrass themselves so often. They just make stuff up as they go. They create these sort of climate models in the incubator of their own scientific desires, ignoring proof, ignoring scientific evidence for their political pet project. There's a very long piece in the Wall Street Journal. It's pretty much everything you need to know about the absurdity of making predictions about the climate. But I really encourage you to head over there and read it, Wall Street Journal. The truth is, nobody knows. They just simply don't know. They just act like they know. And that, of course, should be evident to you if you're even watching. If you're watching a news report from your local news broadcast, listen, I'm in media. I do these broadcasts. 99% of them look it up on the internet and just spout it off like a parrot. They don't even. I know some people. I know some people in the news business that don't even look outside. If the internet website says it is raining frogs, that's what they're going to spout into the microphone. So, ladies and gentlemen, trust me, this stuff is all crap. And the fact that they're pillaging prosperity from people on the back of this junk science, politicized leftist junk science, is not just hilarious, but it's evil. And it has far-reaching implementation in ramification in real people's lives, and it affects the poor the most, the very people that the left is always squawking about. It's disgusting, makes me sick. They deserve to be called out, but it's a religion, it's a dogma, so they likely won't be from the complicit media. New York Times reporting that ISIS is not the only Islamic threat out there as it relates to your homeland. You have a hodgepodge of sick, twisted Sharia law societies birthing the scum of the earth your direction. Doctors on Obamacare, a follow-up response to the Wall Street Journal published article that I brought to you early last week, just exposing Obamacare for a nightmare hurricane heading towards the shores of your private practice that you receive medicine from, your local hospital, and your bank account and pocketbook. You simply cannot overstate the horrific damage that the Orwellian named Affordable Care Act is going to bludgeon you with in the coming months and years. Ladies and gentlemen, sadly, that is the news of your day. CourageCulture.net for all the stories. Thank you for listening.